Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And we are once again talking about, wait for it, Major League Baseball. It's opening day here in Major League Baseball, and man, this is the sport of the summer. It always feels fantastic, and as you guys can see, we've had a lot of success over the years betting on Major League Baseball, and I get it. Some of you guys are going to notice that win-loss record on just the betting side of things and say, hey, Rob, why do you have a negative or like a below 500 win-loss record, but an overwhelmingly positive unit record? And the reason why that is because during baseball season, we are going to be betting on home run props and plus money lines, as well as run lines. And what kind of happens with that is, we will hit plus 900, plus 800, plus 700, plus 600, and so on and so forth with those home run props in particular, but we do take our lumps. Our hit rate on those is about 33%, which ends up being overwhelmingly profitable. But at the same time, if you're looking at it from a win-loss record standpoint in this sport, specifically on the prop side of things, you're probably going to be leaving a little bit to be desired in terms of the win-loss department. But at the same time, if you're looking at our over-unders, if you're looking at our run line bets or our money line bets, we're actually hitting at about 57% over the past 4 seasons. So with all that being said, I am jacked up. I am so excited to talk about Major League Baseball, and we've got a host of bets here on Thursday to pair with our Sweet 16 bets on the college hardwood as well. But with all that being said, before we jump into those picks, I do want to take a second to shout out today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. And if you haven't already signed up using promo code ROBDFB, I highly recommend it, especially with baseball being back in our lives, because that we are going to be betting on a lot of player props and a lot of player options, as well as, home runs on the side of Underdog, and also hits plus runs plus RBIs away from Underdog. But we're going to have Underdog Fantasy slips for nearly every single day over the next 6 months. So I highly recommend you guys go over to my Twitter/X page to follow along with those there. But with all that being said, y'all, let's go ahead and hop into these Major League Baseball bets here on opening day. All right, first up, we are taking a look at a divisional matchup here between Baltimore and Toronto. And on the bump for Baltimore is going to be Zach Eflin, and Jose Barrios is on the bump for Toronto. And Jose Barrios has been rock solid for the majority of his career. And we look at Zach Eflin on the other side, he's had some really dominant looking stretches, but overall, when you look over as his entire season, he has had some really rocky stretches mixed in with those good stretches, kind of balancing out to a very league average type of pitcher. And, against the Toronto lineup that really just took a long time to wake up last season, and arguably they didn't really wake up at all when it was all said and done, I do think they're going to jump out the gates hot here, and they do have their ace on the bump who should be able to get it done, or at least give them a chance to win this game pretty handily. So give me Toronto on the money line for 2 units for our first bet here in the Major League Baseball season. For pick number 2, we are taking a look at a matchup here between Philadelphia and Washington. And the Nats are a very young team, and in this game, they have a very young guy taking the bump with Mackenzie Gore. And when you look at Mackenzie Gore last season, one of the things that really plagued him were those high walk rate numbers. And, that's something that you kind of expect from young pitchers. You're chasing the strikeout, you're trying to make every pitch perfect, and that ends up to a lot of guys getting free passes. But in the years following that sort of beginning breakout year, you do see those walk rate numbers kind of steadily go down from young pitchers, and I do feel like we have a chance to see a real breakout from Mackenzie Gore this season. And when you look at the other side with Philadelphia, they've got Zach Wheeler on the bump who can really deal it himself. There's also a weather factor at play in this game. Not a really suitable game for, high balls getting hit out of the park. And I do feel like the under, specifically through the first 5 innings, is a very viable number at 3.5. So let's go ahead and bet the first 5 under of 3.5 runs. And let's go ahead and pair that under with the Nationals catching a half run through the first 5 innings as well. For pick number 3, we are taking a look at a matchup here between the Red Sox and the Rangers. And this is a really fun game for a lot of different reasons. 2 fantastic lineups and 2 really notable pitchers as well, with Garrett Crochet and Nate Eovaldi taking the bump in this game. And you know, I feel like with Nate Eovaldi, we've already seen his peak. He's definitely a little bit past his prime at this point, but he still has the upside that we saw in Boston of just being an all-time dominant strikeout type of guy with power stuff. Now, he does run into a lot of issues in terms of allowing hard hit percentages, and the Red Sox are a team with a lot of hard-hitting lefties that could give Nate Eovaldi a ton of issues. And when you look at Garrett Crochet on the other side, he is now officially 2 years removed from that Tommy John surgery that he had with the White Sox. And I'm a really big believer in once you're 2 years removed from whatever injury was kind of plaguing you, and this is pretty much in every sport, but specifically baseball, I do feel like your mental starts to come back. You start trusting yourself a little bit more to just kind of let it eat. And when you're looking at Garrett Crochet, this was a guy that for, a month and a half, 2 months out of the season with the White Sox looked like the best pitcher in all of baseball. I think he could get off to a similar start this season as well. And for that reason, let's go ahead and take the Red Sox on the money line for 3 units for our third bet here on MLB opening day. For pick number 4, we are taking a look at an extremely fun pitcher's duel between Paul Skeens and Sandy Alcantara. And when you're looking at this matchup here, Sandy, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries over the last 2 years. We haven't really seen him at full strength ever since 2022 when he posted a 2.28 ERA with the playoff-bound Marlins. And listen, I totally understand if you're hesitant to back the Marlins in general in this game. And I totally understand if you don't want to back Pittsburgh in this game, despite them having their aces on the bump. But we're going to place a bet on something that does make me cringe a little bit. We're not going to have a lot of these bets this season, but on MLB opening day, with 2 horses like this, and with a number, or at least, just based on the juice of this number, we're getting pretty favorable odds here. Let's go ahead and take a Nerfy on the Pittsburgh-Miami game. Minus 160 is what I grabbed this on, and this was on BetMGM. A lot of other books have it at like minus 190, minus 200, minus 180, but minus 160, I do not make it a habit to bet this type of line, but I do feel like it's suitable, and we're getting a little bit of a discount given the fact that MGM has it set here. So let's go ahead and take that Nerfy for 3 units for our 4th bet here on MLB opening day. All right, next up, we are taking a look at a matchup here between the Braves and the Padres, and we're looking at the pitchers in this matchup as well. You got Chris Sale and you got Michael King. Man, Chris Sale, obvious name, he's been around for a long time, and when he's healthy, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. But Michael King on the other side had a real breakout season of sorts last year, and I say real breakout season because it was his first full season as a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, where he's not kind of transitioning between being a bullpen guy, a long reliever, or a starter. The Padres made him just a solidified starter right out the gate, and he served them extremely well, especially down the stretch where he was limiting hard contact, he was striking out hitters, he was going deep into games, and I really do believe that both of these guys could go 6 or 7 innings strong, maybe only 1 or 2 runs max between them as well. And for that reason, I do really like the full game to go under 7 runs here for 2 units for our 5th bet here on MLB opening day. All right, next up, we are taking a look at a matchup here between the Tigers and the Dodgers, and we've got Tarik Skubal taking on Blake Snell, and it's amazing that the Dodgers are already 2-0, and Blake Snell hasn't even pitched a game yet out of those 2 wins, and it's just insane. When you look at the rotation, when you look at the lineup, the Dodgers have a true super team, probably the biggest and best super team that I've ever seen in my lifetime as a Major League Baseball fan. And they are taking on the Tigers here rather, with Tarik Skubal, who, fantastic pitcher, and a lineup also with the Tigers that I do think can get to Snell, especially in this kind of favorable weather that's expected to be out in Los Angeles here on Thursday. And for that reason, just inherently, when you are talking about a super team on the other side, I do feel like the Tigers are actually catching a fair bit of value here, because it wouldn't surprise me if Tarik Skubal ends up coming out of this game looking like the best pitcher. And for that reason, let's go ahead and take the 1-run buffer with the Detroit Tigers for 2.5 units. And for an additional full unit, let's go ahead and bet on their money line here as well. And some of you guys may be asking, Rob, how do I get that +1? All I'm seeing are, +1.5 lines, and it's -160. What do I do? Down in the description box below, I'm going to have a link to a Runline calculator. You can use whatever Runline calculator you want. There are more than one out there on the interwebs, but all you have to do is plug in what the money line price is on your sportsbook, and also what the +1.5 line is on your sportsbook. And the Runline calculator will tell you what to bet on the money line and the +1.5 to equal out to what the +1 version of that would be. And it's a very helpful tool. Or you can just be like me, be very easy with it and use DraftKings. A lot of these other sportsbooks only allow you to bet the +1.5 lines, but DraftKings in particular does have just a +1 option available under game lines. So up to you, but that's the best way to calculate the +1 advantage. And finally, we're going to be heading out to the Chicago and Arizona game here. It's going to be our final bet on the board for MLB opening day, and we're looking at Justin Steele taking on Zach Gallen. And although Zach Gallen is a really big name, he is a guy that I've been very open to fading down the stretch in the past 2 years, because he really does struggle with hard hit percentages. They're pretty egregious. They're one of the highest in baseball in terms of what I would say are the quote-unquote elite pitchers with great stuff, and he does have great stuff, but he really can't put it together for 5, 6, or 7 innings at a time. It always feels like he has a really rough stretch in there, and the Cubs are coming into this game with an 0-2 record, having already lost to the Dodgers out in Japan, and I do feel like for that reason, the Cubs are going to be extra motivated. Justin Steele has already seen the Dodgers lineup this season, and although he didn't fare well, I do feel like he has a building point for the regular season to come back strong, and for that reason, I say we go ahead and bet 3 units on the Cubs money line. +118 is what I'm seeing and what I grabbed it at, and that's going to be our final bet here on MLB opening day. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video, and if you do want to show some love, make sure you drop a like on the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you guys comment down below. But with all that being said, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.